He does. He can focus for like 8 hours at Dairy Queen.
That's true. That's right.
We could have done a spar debate. Which cartoon is better, like comic strip Peanuts or Calvin and Hobbes?
Calvin and Hobbes. This is not even debatable.
Peanuts.
I mean, Snoopy's iconic. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just going. I would say it's debatable.
Iconic doesn't mean it's good. It means it's iconic.
It's Snoopy.
So what?
Thank you, Tony. It's Snoopy. That's why.
That's not even.
Do you like Calvin better or do you like Hobbes better?
Calvin is. Well, yeah.
You can't separate them.
No. That's why Calvin and Hobbes.
Ooh, no.
What? You're not a fan?
No.
But at least
What?
That's like-
No, that's the best.
That's like my least favorite of like Disney.
Are you
I
serious?
saw one of the
Oh,
movies.
Hot Honey's family. And what I forget
Are
what
you
happened.
talking the movies or the show?
My family doesn't
The
get
show
along.
was movies or the show?
All of the above.
And the
I
show.
think
the
the movie
movies.
was supreme, the show got repetitive.
It's like the
Yeah.
The show basically became regular.
Yeah, you're
So-
It literally became
Helena's claim is that the movie Lilo and Stitch is supreme. What her data, evidence, and grounds is at this point, I have no idea. Any data, grounds, evidence?
You've seen it. That's it. That's all you need.
Her data, grounds, and evidence is kind of iffy at this point, but she'll be looking to kind of develop it a little bit. The simple form of the Toulmin model, and I would draw the little diagram here, and it's not only lines that would be connecting these things, but you could also pretty much say that there would be arrows. I didn't put the smart board up. There would be arrows that would be leading from one to the other. So Stephen Toulmin's idea, and that's what the Toulmin model is named after. At some point after you die, you become famous for something that you create and they put in textbooks. I don't know what I'll create, but something will be something. Is you collect data or evidence and grounds, and those terms are all interchangeable, so it just kind of becomes which ones you tend to use. I tend to use the term data more often than anything else. That doesn't mean it has to be numbered by any means, but just like evidence that you're using here to support your argument. But you collect your data, then you look at the data, and you start to have a warrant or a reasoning or something that is going to connect this that leads you to an ultimate conclusion that you come to. Toulmin has a scientific background to him, so the whole scientific questioning idea of coming up with a hypothesis and testing it and coming to conclusions really starts to kind of come through with the Toulmin model. Can you see any issues with the way that people would structure their arguments, assuming that not only do we have lines connecting, but these would be arrows, to say, Shrey's going to collect data, Shrey's going to start to digest this data, come to some conclusions, and that's going to lead him to his claim. Do you see any issues with us going, that's the way that arguments would be constructed in a real-world practical sense? Because I don't think it necessarily always works that way. If we were to do a debate topic, and we're going to go, okay, you're going to get partners, you're going to have a debate next Friday, what's some of the first things that you're going to want to know?
All we're debating.
Like, what are we debating? What's the topic? Might even be like, who are we debating? I give Shrey the topic. What topic do you want to do?
That's cereal.
Okay.
I like that. That's a good one.
What's the best cereal?
Fruity Pebbles. S'mores. Just wait.
Okay.
So right.
Still going on the Cinnamon Toast Crunch bandwagon. Shrey goes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the best cereal out there. Erica gives him a thumbs up.
Yes, I agree.
What has he come up with from that Toulmin model? He's come up with a claim. According to the Toulmin model, is claim step 1, step 2, step 3.
Step
It'd be step 3. For Shrey, it is step number 1. So what he does, therefore, is works backwards. How does that affect these other two things, data and warrant? Like if he's going, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the best, Lilo and Stitch is supreme, to use Helena's term, what is going to happen then with the evidence that she starts to look at, or that he starts to look at, or that any of us start to look at for whatever argument? You're going to be looking specifically for stuff that's going to support your idea. And anything else you're pretty much going to discount. Now, you still might acknowledge what some other opposing viewpoints are, so that when you go up against Evelyn and her case for cereal is useless, then you're going to go on the attack. Belgian waffles over cereal. French toast.
I like this.
French toast over anything. Toulmin's argument here would be, you should be looking at all data, all evidence, all grounds, all information. You should digest that information and then come to a conclusion. So, Jack, I think the term you used is bias when it comes to evidence. He would be saying you should strip that bias away. But that's a tough thing for us to sometimes be able to do. But to look at an argument truly objectively, it'd be wanting to find all the evidence, all the arguments out there, then kind of come with your own reasoning as to what would ultimately end up being the claim. I kind of understand that a lot of the time we're going to start here and then you kind of come back and work your way through. But it's important to really, kind of consider, are you looking at all the data? Of these three things, and we're going to get into definitions here in a moment, the warrant, the reasoning is the one that oftentimes kind of gets left out because we kind of assume that's going to be the case. And that's kind of happening with Helena's argument with Lilo and Stitch. You've seen it, right? Obviously, it's the best, it is supreme. There's not really an explanation taking place, there's not really a warrant, there's not really a reasoning. You can kind of think of the claim, if we were looking at this within an essay, claim's going to be your thesis statement. The warrant, the reasoning is really like the body paragraphs, that explanation, that analysis that kind of starts to take place. So it's important that you don't leave those things behind. The claim is the point that the arguer is trying to make. It's the main concept, it's the main idea. It could be a proposition, could be an assertion, could be a modification to some kind of idea that is out there. And there's a whole bunch of different claims that we're going to be taking a look at so far as three main types, that exist. But if the question was essentially, what is the point, what is the purpose about the argument, the claim would take care of that. So you could have a claim, you should buy your brother a birthday present, and then it also even has a bit of evidence there because he bought one for you. Now, if it's my case where my brother did not buy me a birthday, my brothers, plural, did not buy me a birthday present, then I could make a counter argument, therefore, I should not buy them. No, they didn't even get me anything. That is me. I agree. And that is why I will not buy them a birthday. I'm not so sure that I am better than that, to be honest.
That's a fair.
Fair's fair.
I don't think it's straight.
If Jack were to buy me a birthday present, maybe I would buy it. I'd at least go to Dairy Queen more often.
Yeah.
Leave some nice tips.
Assuming the credit card machine is working. Thank you.
That wasn't much. I mean,
And
I
was
was
a problem.
on the register. I was making noise.
By the way, that was used for hair flip
I think I've done some of
that I've noticed.
that.
We're still doing okay. Mentioned that there are types of claims. There's really three different ones here that we're going to look at, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about each one. But the three different types, you got a fact, you have judgment or value, and then you have policy. Yeah, you can still see all those things. If you're doing a fact-based claim, you are proving that something has happened. And it even could be a case that something is going to happen, where you are going that, this is true. I would say of the three, depending upon what the fact certainly would be, but depending upon the three, I'd say fact-based tends to be the most difficult, because you're not doing a value where you're arguing that something should happen, but you're going that Lilo and Stitch is the best, would be a fact-based claim. Belgian waffles are superior to cereal, would be a fact-based claim. As opposed to something like, you should buy your brother a birthday present, would be judgment or value. You don't have to prove that something is or did happen or will happen, but you're arguing about more values, opinions, judgment calls. They tend to have the word should being used in them. People like judgment value, I think, over fact-based, because you're talking about how someone should view something as opposed to whether it is or was good, bad, harmful, whatever the case may be. You can certainly have topics go in the fact-based claim or judgment value, or also policy for that matter. Policy is when you're dealing more with advocating a course of action that should be undertaken so far as like legislation. So when we do student congress, and I can raise the policy claim up, assuming we're good now with the fact one. When we do student congress and you create laws, that's going to be policy. So take something like capital punishment, death penalty. If you were to say the United States should remove the death penalty as a form of punishment, which of the three types would that be? The United States should remove the death penalty as a form of punishment. That would be, or not policy, that would be judgment. Should remove it. If you were to do something, you could take that. The United States should remove the death penalty as a form of punishment. This will go into effect January the 1st, 2019. Now I'm setting up like some legislature for it. That would end up making a policy. The death penalty is a deterrent to criminals committing violent crimes. That is now a fact-based claim. And so the difficulty that can happen with that is you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is a deterrent or that it is not a deterrent. Whereas if we were doing the first one that is more of a policy, you're getting more in an ethical, moral argument. You don't have to have that degree of certainty necessary behind it to prove that something actually did happen or did not happen. So sometimes we might have a resolution that is worded one way, and then we could kind of tweak it a little bit that might make it a value, could make it a fact, or could make it a legislative or policy type. But the three main types, fact-based, or proving that something has happened or will happen, did happen. Policy is going to be more of a legislative thing. This will go into effect at a certain point in time. And then the last one being the judgment value, something should or should not happen. So people should not cheat on their homework is going to be judgment. Beginning March the 1st, 2018, any student discovered cheating on his or her homework assignment will be thrown in prison in North Hills School District or the Rotunda. That would be a legislative policy thing. Fact-based would be cheating causes students to become immoral adults. You would have to prove that that is the case, that it does happen. For that one to be a fact-based. Okay. Any questions about the differences among those three? The grounds, the data, the evidence, and again, you can use any of those three words. It doesn't matter which one you use. I tend to go data more often than not. I think grounds probably is the more commonly accepted one. For whatever reason, I just say data. Grounds, data, evidence, whatever. It's referring to the proof that the arguer is going to be offer. So it's going to take care of answering those questions. What is your proof? How come? Why? Is Lilo and Stitch better than... I don't know what my favorite Disney movie would be. Underrated. I'll go.
That was good, but not bad. Lion King, there's nothing better than Lion King. Yes, I want for we've gotten it.
See, Lion King for me, like, we've got all these offshoots now with Lion Guard cartoon. Like,
Yeah, I don't watch
man,
those.
it's
Those are
those are even fun.
crazy.
Yeah, like Disney Junior has like a Lion Guard thing. It's Simba's son.
Just Lion King.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I don't see that.
What about, what is it, 1.5?
I didn't watch that one.
Wait,
I
so
saw it. I saw it.
Is it 2.5?
It's 2.5.
Two and a half.
Yeah. 1 and 2.
No, it's 1.5.
It's 1 and 2.
No, it's 1.5.
Are you kidding
It's
me?
gotta be 1.5 because it's like a recap of
Are they still making Land Before Time movies?
No.
Oh,
No.
that's
I
good.
enjoyed
I think
those.
they're up to 28 for
The
that.
bestest movie is Dinosaur.
Oh, that's true. That
Yeah.
is true.
Wait, what?
That
Which one was
traumatized
just
me.
that was the one that came out like a couple years ago?
No,
it's
it's
like
wild,
like
yeah.
the 90s.
There's like a monkey like rides around on a dinosaur or something.
Oh, I
and
remember Yeah.
What was his name? It was like,
Wait,
wow.
I couldn't say anything more about it other than he lived it.
You know what's terrible? The Good Dinosaur.
That was the one that just came out not that long ago.
Yeah.
Okay, that
All these
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Oh wait, Jack, is that even for like the weird description?
Yes.
When it comes to different types of grounds data evidence, and not that this is the only types that would be out there, but it kind of gives you an idea. You could be going with something such as statistics, so popularity. You're talking about movies, people might start taking a look at Rotten Tomato ratings and things like that you could kind of use as a statistic. You could take quotations, and by quotations meaning like kind of testimonies, what people have said about something, reports, findings. Could be physical evidence. You could have a claim, I'm sick. How do you know? Well, I'm sweating. My eyes are bloodshot. I have a fever. There's physical evidence that would be going along with that. I'm blowing my nose all the time. You also can have various forms of reasoning that would be out there. If you're going with like the favorite movie, best serial, there might not necessarily be evidence out there that will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that what you like is best or whatnot. But there certainly could be various forms of reasoning that you would use as examples or whatnot. When people came out of the movie, they were happy. The cereal that I used to buy, it would have little toys in the bottom that made it, better, little Legos and things like that. They don't put toys in cereal boxes anymore.
Yes, I do.
It's a dark age. Yeah, but they used to be like in all types. Baseball cards they would put in there.
Yeah. Crack.
Do they color change in milk though? So I mean, those are the good spoons. I did have a Lion King spoon that changed color. I got rid of that. I think it was Nala. I wanted a Simba spoon. Didn't get it.
It's amazing.
Overrated or not?
So the grounds can be coming from a variety of places. An important thing for you to certainly understand about yourself with the arguments that you create, and I know I already kind of alluded to this earlier, you don't want to end up going to the same type of evidence all the time. And I think I mentioned statistics before, where sometimes people will fall in love with statistics. If you know that your opponent is always going to be going to the same type of grounds, they certainly become a lot easier to prepare for and to argue against. So you want to avoid doing that, where you keep coming back to the same type over and over and over again. Just like there can be a variety of types of claims, there can be different kinds of grounds that we're taking a look at. Certainly kind of we're showing you the examples of it. They pretty much break down into three categories where there would be evidence. So you have something that you actually can point to, the facts, the statistics, the reports, some kind of physical proof. There's source credibility. So when it mentioned about quotations, this could be testimonies and things like that. I should take, last Friday, I went to the little pre-APers, 10th grade classes, the ankle biters, and was giving them rundown of, English options. They could take Honors American Lit, or they could take AP English Language Composition with me. And of course they go, well, which one should I take? And what do I say? No, the other one, because then I don't have to deal with you. Could be source credibility. Mr. Kane, the English teacher, said I should take that class, so therefore that's the one that I'll ultimately sign up for. Now, source credibility might not work so well when it comes to other things. Jack, this is the math class you should take. I don't know if that source credibility quite works the same since it's coming from a different discipline. But you can, when you take a look at celebrity endorsers, commercials, and things like that, it tends to be source credibility is the reasoning, the evidence as to why you should buy this type of detergent or shower gel, deodorant, cereal, whatever the case may be. Michael Phelps likes Cocoa Pebbles. He is bazillion-time Olympic champion, therefore you should have your Cocoa Pebbles too. We'll discount the arrests and all that kind of stuff. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the only problem is the boxes keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
You can get the off-brand from Chocolate, where they give you the giant bag of like cinnamon.
Yeah, like,
Toast or whatever.
oh yeah, they're
It gets
You don't
soggy
eat
too.
cereal and cinnamon.
Off-brand cereal.
oh no, I do. I had it
What
today.
is it?
No, it's next to it, Frosted Flakes.
Oh,
I don't wanna-
Frosted Flakes is one of the best of all time.
I've never eaten
Frosted Flakes comes in a large box.
Yeah.
At a fraction of the price.
Raisin bread. Oh, I got
Raisins.
See, Maddie, Mr. King cereal bowl.
That's not the same one.
That's like
Well, I
saying
know.
Cheerios.
You didn't make one for me like Ashley.
Cheerios are the worst.
I'm
saying it.
Cheerios are like,
No, you're really.
Cheerios
Last one.
are the worst.
Who knew that cereal would be Honey Nut Cheerios?
No,
That's
that's the worst thing to
Raisin
happen
bran
to
crunch.
food.
Raisin bran crunch.
I would rather eat
No,
Brussels
you like
sprouts.
raisin bran
I
crunch.
do it too. I got a D plus on the health thingy.
Yeah.
See, he just ensures credibility. You said you like Raisin Bran.
I like
Yeah.
raisins.
The secret to Honey Nut Cheerios is to have cocoa pebbles. Pour a third of the bowl of cocoa pebbles, then you put the honey nut on top. Oh,
No.
mixing cereal is the way to go.
No.
Definitely.
I cannot stand for this. Yeah.
Listen out. All right, last one. Warren. And said to you that this is the one that sometimes can be problematic for folks because depending upon the argument that you are making, and so like I think what Maddie's just said would kind of be an example of this. You should eat rocks instead of Raisin Bran.
No, I said I would rather eat rocks.
Well, I'm changing it. She said you should eat rocks rather than Raisin Bran because it is so terrible, the Raisin Bran. She detests it so much that she would not understand why I need to explain that Raisin Bran is not a good
Yeah,
cereal.
you don't need it.
But you do. And so by not explaining, you are omitting the warrant. Now, if it is something where you are quote unquote, preaching to the choir where people are going to agree with you, or you're talking with friends and they understand, maybe like a hidden joke or previous knowledge, prior knowledge that's taking place, sure, a warrant can certainly be skipped. But when you're dealing with, let's hope, complex issues, topics, debates that would be taking place, you need a warrant to verify your argument. You need a warrant to convince people who, not just from the opposing side, but are on the fence because they're looking for reasons, rationale, explanation as to why that is the case. But I think too often people assume that the listener understands where they're coming from, has the prior knowledge, the previous experience, so they'll kind of skip that. You don't want to take that class because, let's be honest, you don't want to take that class, you're skipping a warrant. No, why don't I want to take that class? Explain. You don't want to read that book. That's the best movie of all time. We don't even have to discuss it. Yes, you do. What's your explanation? What's the reasoning? Go. So the warrant is certainly an important part because it does provide that connection. Now, when it comes to simple arguments, it is typically implicit or unstated. But for the way that we're going to be looking at it, that linking function, it is absolutely significant. So by all means, you do want to clearly state how that evidence, how that grounds, how that data ultimately leads into a claim. For those of you that would have, that had me last year, or this year with English class, if we were doing like a DRQ essay, and Jack would put an example down, but I would go, well, what does this mean? That would mean the warrant wasn't there. The explanation, the link, the connection between the idea that you have in your head and the overall claim that you're making, it was just missing. If someone goes, I don't get it, you're probably missing the warrant and you would need to kind of explain it to them. Or I'm not following, that would mean there's some kind of miscommunication taking place with the warrant. So when I look at my daughter and go, come on, Addie, what? I need to explain the warrant as to why I'm upset that her spot at the dinner table is messy, streaks everywhere, problems.
We should have done all the DRQs in English.
What?
We should have only done DRQs. My favorite essay is this. You got it. It's not like it's
We got a little bit of a delay going on here. My screen's moving, yours isn't. So just like we were going into detail about claims and grounds, warrants, going to put that, here they go. We have ethos, logos, pathos, and then the one down at the bottom also is going to be shared values, and I'll kind of zoom in with these things. And again, you're going to certainly notice some carryover with the things that we were talking about with the claim and the data. Source credibility, authority, so far as the warrants. Mr. Kane said I should take that class. There's source credibility. Well, Mr. Kane would be knowledgeable about the various English options out there. He knows who I am as a student. He can best come up with a class that would certainly work for me. Mr. Kane said I shouldn't go to that college. Mr. Kane went to that college. So I guess he knows that I should not go to that college. And why? Source credibility, I'll avoid going there. I would never speak poorly of Superior High. What's that supposed to mean? Jackson. You know Billy Jackson.
Is it?
You know Billy?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I don't think so. I tell you. I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that's pretty with us. Logos, reason giving, induction, deduction, just so far as the logic. So your warrants, with your evidence, you're coming up with statistics, you're coming up with like some reports or whatnot. Then you explain how those statistics, how those reports logically connect to the overall claim. That's going to be more of a logos. Pathos, emotional appeals, probably not one that we're really going to use all that often. If you were, talking about, cereal and things like that again, or movies, and you're trying to emphasize, well, that's something that's going to make you happy, that would kind of be more of an emotional or motivational appeal. Probably not one that we're going to get to too often. The shared values one at the bottom, that is one that folks will commonly use. So you have an argument about gun control, you get to right to bear arms. You have an argument about student expression, freedom of expression, First Amendment rights, things like that. Shared values also could be something like fairness, treatment of people, as we were mentioning with capital punishment, morality, ethics. Those are things that people will try to tap into quite a bit. So it's not fair if someone were to do something or wouldn't be morally right. Those would be shared values. Categories certainly are not mutually exclusive, so a lot of times you could have some warrants reasoning that are going to be tapping into multiple ones that we have up here. I'd say the most common are going to be probably logos, shared value, and then ethos throughout the course of the year that we would be going with. Good. All right, so Muffin is running a temperature. I'll bet she has an infection. So this would be a claim that someone could have. Warrant, since she is running a temperature, you're going with sign, reasoning, a physical kind of evidence. Fever is going to be a reliable sign of an infection. So this would be certainly an unstated warrant, one that you wouldn't have to go in detail. But if you were to simply connect all the dots, your claim would be she has an infection. The evidence would be she's running a temperature. Typically, if a person has a temperature, a higher temperature than normal, that means there's some kind of illness taking place, virus, infection, the flu, or whatnot. So certainly something as simple as that, you wouldn't have to provide a warrant, but as you get into more complex issues, that's where warrants would be necessary. That dog is probably friendly. It's a golden retriever. You have a generalization that's taking place. Claim is going to be the dog is probably friendly. The evidence, it's a golden retriever. So the warrant, the reasoning would be typically golden retrievers tend to be friendly dogs, so therefore this one should be pretty friendly as well. Owen is a person of questionable character. He's wearing a hoodie. A warrant would be people who wear hoodies. There must be some questionable things. Why do you look nervous?
Let's see that hoodie. What it is.
We talk about Owen, but yet we stare at you.
Yeah.
Then there's Ray over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the guy who comes in late half the time. Dylan's just staring at us so that we don't stare at him. It's a mind game. Yep. We all come back to you. I don't know. Why not Bowen?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't look at Bowen.
Stare at me. Take a picture, Mr. King, my last one.
Come on. Jackson, you're breaking the stuff today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackson. Slide
Slide I'm trying to show you is going to have the quiz is going to look like. Did we get it? All right. Apologize for the delay. All right, let's try this one more time. What's going to happen on your quiz is you are going to get a set of statements. They're going to be in sets of 3. So of the 3 statements, you're going to have to identify which one is a claim, which one is data, which one is a warrant. Obviously, they're not going to necessarily. So we'll do it this way.
One day.
He sat right there and he said, "That's enough for me." All right, now that we're getting a blank screen, this isn't meant to happen. So tomorrow, oh, here we kind of go. So what's going to happen on your quiz, and certainly these aren't going to be the examples, but they're going to be broken up into 3 different statements. Let's take a look at the middle one, and then we'll just cut it off for today since we're having some technical issues. Middle one, people over 65 are more dangerous drivers. The number of car accidents for people over 65 is twice that of people aged 18 to 25. Number of driving accidents is an indicator of driving ability. Of those 3 statements, which one would be the claim? Which one would be the argument that someone would be trying to make? Callie? People over 65 are more dangerous drivers. Yes, that's your claim. And I think that's usually the easiest one to start with. Figure out what's the claim. Then go, okay, what is the evidence that would be supporting that claim? So of those following 2 statements, which one would be supporting that people over 65 are more dangerous drivers? Evelyn? Number of car accidents is twice that for people who are 65 and over, twice that for those who are 18 to 25, and then that would leave the warrant, the reasoning, the number of driving accidents that you're in would be an indicator of driving ability. So your quiz isn't going to be, these examples that we would have on the board, but you're going to have 4 sets of 3 statements, so it's going to be 12 points. The first thing that you probably want to do with those 3 statements is figure out which one is the claim, figure out then which one is the data, and then which one would be the warrant. Sometimes the warrant and the data probably have to think about a little bit harder just to see which one from a cause and effect standpoint would be happening first. If you have a value argument claim, you're going to be looking for what keyword. It's not always going to be there, but if it's a value-based claim, it would have the word should. If you see the word should in the statement, there's a pretty good chance that that's going to be your claim. What is not going to happen is that one of the statements in the first group would be a claim, one of the statements in the second group would be the data to that original claim where they're all mixed up. You know you're going to be looking at those sets of 3. So it would be a 12-point quiz, you identifying which one is the claim, which one is the data, which one is the warrant. Tomorrow we'll run through a couple more practice ones of these just to kind of get the feel for it, and then I'll show you some of the more, it's not complex really, but it's the advanced Toulmin model, some of the additional terms that we can use with. When?